People of the internet, welcome back to another video. It is I, Don Thomas, back in here with another one. As always, folks, the likes, the comments, the subscribes are all greatly appreciated. Thank you so much for the support on this channel. Without further ado, let's go ahead and dive into today's topic, folks. I'm sure by now you've heard that President Donald Trump has passed a new spending bill. Got a video pulled up here from Good Morning America announcing exactly that. Entitled the video, President Trump signs massive spending bill. It's gone into law. Now, of course, some people are in favor of this bill. Some people are against this bill. Let's get a little bit more context. I'll share my thoughts down in the comment section below. I encourage you to share your thoughts down in the comment section below. Let's get into it.
To politics now, and President Trump signing the so-called Big Beautiful Bill, hosting a celebration at the White House, now trying to sell the plan to the American people. NBC's senior White House correspondent Selena Wang joins us now from Washington with more. Selena, good morning.
Hey, Wade, good morning to you. President Trump marked July 4th with a celebration and a major political victory. His so-called Big Beautiful Bill is now the law. The president highlighting those tax cuts while downplaying slashes to Medicaid. Overnight, President Trump signing his sweeping domestic policy into law.
It's the biggest bill of its type in history.
Celebrating his legislative win during Independence Day festivities alongside Republican lawmakers who helped him muscle this bill through Congress.
Mike Johnson right there. I see Mike. What a job they've done. What a job they've done.
The motion is adopted.
The nearly 1,000-page bill barely passed Congress after Trump arm-twisted holdouts in his own party. All but two House Republicans ended up voting for the bill, despite anger that it could add $3.4 trillion to the debt over the next decade, and estimates that steep cuts to Medicaid could force 11.8 million Americans to lose their health insurance. The president highlighting those tax cuts, mostly for the wealthiest Americans, while ending taxes on tips and overtime and new spending for immigration enforcement.
So you have the biggest tax cut, the biggest spending cut, the largest border security investment in American history.
Democrats confident they'll win back voters as Americans start to lose their health care and food assistance.
I don't think we have ever seen or are prepared for how catastrophic this is set to be.
The president, though, taking a victory lap.
I think had probably the most successful almost 6 months as a president and the presidency.
Pause it right there, folks. So there you heard it, folks. The Big Beautiful Bill has been signed and passed into law by President Donald Trump here in the United States. Folks, of course, depending on what side of the fence you're on, depending on what tax bracket you're in, depending on what demographic you are, this is either going to be good news to you or bad news to you. Again, folks, as I always make it clear to you guys, I always make sure to give the disclaimer that I'm not the most political guy. I'm very cautious when speaking about politics on my platform. One, because I just don't like politics. I think at times it could all be just buffoonery. A lot of the times, of course, as well, too, I have a surface level understanding of all these things, right? So you're never going to hear me, boast and brag or speak so, definitively on certain things when it comes to politics, but from a surface level understanding, right? Some of us, at least for the most part, all have a surface level of understanding of how all this stuff works, right? Just the basics, right? If we just go over the basics, particularly this bill and what it entails, I can see how some people are a little bit worried and not in favor of this bill. On the flip side of that, I can see how some people are in favor of this bill and maybe joyous of this bill. Again, as I mentioned, it's going to be based upon where you lie on the totem pole, right? I spoke about the totem pole before, folks. A hierarchy of sorts, right? The more money and power and influence and maybe connections or societal, whatever the case is, however you want to call it. However, the better socioeconomically off you are, certain bills like this are maybe in your favor. For those of us, myself included, who are not economically, socially affluent, such bills maybe don't favor you as much. I wanted to go over something else as well too that I came across. So of course, just a quick screenshot of something that they shared here. So the budget bill will implement tax cuts mostly for the wealthiest Americans. It's ending taxes on tips and overtime, right? And then of course, new spending for immigration enforcement. Again, folks, a little bit of wins here, a little bit of wins there, depending on where you lie. If you are somebody that works in a service industry or a job or role that has tips, i.e. restaurants, bars, things of that nature, anything that has tips, this bill will allow you not to be taxed on those tips and overtime. Of course, tax cuts mostly for the wealthiest Americans. If you're somebody who identifies as a wealthy American, there's tax cuts implemented for you in this bill as well. Of course, new spending for immigration enforcement. I know a lot of people that would be in favor of this, i.e. with all the things that are happening that we've been seeing, ICE protests and ICE rallies and immigration, this, that, people crossing into the border illegally. I know people would feel away to hear that more spending will be implemented within this bill as well, too. There were some numbers that they also had in here that also comes with this bill as well, too. On the not so bright side of this bill, it could add $3.4 trillion to our national debt. I know that's a major concern, of course, for those tax-paying Americans who, from time to time, question, what's the money that's being used for, our taxes, where is it going, this and the other, and the debt that America already has. This new bill could add on $3.4 trillion. $3.4 trillion. Do you know what trillion is? Like, that's not... Sometimes I hear these numbers and this is like, we hear them, but I don't think it resonates how much that is. But then again, of course, some people would argue and say, money is not real. Money is just printed as ones and zeros in a spreadsheet. I've heard that theory, of course, as well, too, that all this money could just be generated off of, that's where inflation comes into play and things of that nature. I get all of that. But this new bill, again, isn't all peaches and sunshine. $3.4 trillion in the national debt, along with cuts to Medicaid, which could force 11.8 million to lose health insurance. This bill cuts into Medicaid. Again, if you're somebody in the demographic, as I told, this all comes down to where you lie, where you stand. If you're somebody who is a beneficiary of Medicaid currently at the moment, this new bill could force 11.8 million to lose health insurance. Again, folks, some people are in favor of this bill. Some people are not so much in favor of this bill, depending on where you stand. What we should be mindful of, and I think I said this in another video as well too, of course, this comes in on the tail end of Elon also announcing that he is starting a new party. One of the reasons of the fallout between him and Donald Trump was because of this bill. He wasn't so much in favor of this bill, I don't think, because he too would have seen tax cuts, though it would have favored him being that he's one of the wealthiest Americans. There were some things that were implemented in this bill that didn't favor the endeavors of Elon Musk, and maybe that was part of the reason that they had their fallout. But nonetheless, of course, in announcing this, almost simultaneously, Elon Musk has announced that he's starting his own political party. We don't know how official that is just yet. I don't think there's any official paperwork or anything that has gone out, but it just kind of goes back to the point of me saying that America and the people who are at the top or who run it are going to continue to do what they want to do, and us little guys are going to have to just deal with it. People will say, oh, that's why you need to get out and vote. You voted for this. Folks, cut it out. Regardless of how you voted, whether you voted for Democrat, whether you voted for Republican, I think these things were going to happen anyway. Again, this is just my anecdotal opinion. Take it, leave it, do what you want to do with it. All these things that you see are happening right now, they were going to happen whether you voted red or blue. And you were going to have to deal with it regardless. Again, if you don't got a seat at that table, if your name is not Zuckerberg, Musk, Trump, all the other names, even the names we don't know, if you're not from that cloth, that's who calls the shots. And they're not taking anything that you have to do into consideration. They don't care if it's a cutting into your Medicaid. They don't care if it means it's inflation for your groceries. They don't care about none of that, because they don't feel that. You understand? So the people that are making these bills, they don't feel the effects of the bill. All these cuts and $1 trillion debt and this, that, and the other, a lot of these people that are passing these laws, Trump, Elon's, all of them, the likes thereof, this doesn't affect their wallet. You know who wallet it does affect, though? Exactly. So it's just like, regardless of how you voted, I think some of these things, in my personal opinion, again, we could speak on that, whatever, but regardless of how you voted, they were always going to do what they wanted to do, is basically what I'm saying. If this was Democrat, Republican, whatever the case is, even if Trump wasn't in office, I personally believe, regardless of how you voted, the powers that be are always going to do what benefits the powers. And if it just so happens to benefit you guys as well, too, if it trickles wades down where it benefits you as well, too, cool. But I don't think they had you in mind when they making these rules, is my personal opinion. That's why I don't really like talking politics, because some people are so headstrong on, nah, man, the law, the Constitution, this, that, and the other, where time and time again they prove to us that all that doesn't mean nothing. Very rarely do you see like the actual constitution and justice, things like justice, and those things don't really shine or come to the forefront when it's really time to make things happen. $1 trillion debt and tax write-offs and tax cuts and this, then it's like you kind of realize that, man, these people are doing whatever they want, is what it seems like. These people, red or blue, are doing whatever they want to do, and they only make rules and laws that benefit them and their agenda, not you. But that's just my take. Of course, I want to hear yours down in the comment section below, folks. What do you make of this new bill, man? Does it favor you? Are you somebody who this bill favors? Are you somebody who is going to feel the brunt of this bill being passed into law? Are you one of the 11.8 million that's going to lose out on maybe healthcare, Medicaid because of this new bill? What are your thoughts, folks? Of course, I want to hear it down in the comment section below. As always, the likes, the comments, the subscribes are all greatly appreciated. I will catch you guys on the next one.